Hello and welcome to the channel. My name is Annalisa, and today I am painting a fantasy landscape featuring a castle and some rolling green hills and some mountains and some fantasy creatures. So I was basically just looking at my sketchbook wondering what to make next, and I just felt like sketching out a castle. So I did that, and then the thing about making a landscape is that if you do it with enough distance so you can see very far away, you can add all sorts of things into one painting and have it be really a big jumbled mess of stuff going on. So the first thing that I had an idea to have going on was unicorns, because I don't think I've painted a unicorn yet, and I really love them. They are some of my favorite fantasy creatures other than dragons, and you can see I also put dragons in this piece, so I got to really enjoy myself with the magical creatures in this one. And I think it is a lot less intimidating for me to draw dragons that are small or far away, and the same thing with unicorns, because then it's all kind of vague and I don't feel as much pressure to get it perfect, and I can just kind of have impressions of dragons and impressions of unicorns. But also this time I had a lot easier time drawing horse shapes than I usually do. I have tried for years to figure out how to draw horses simply and without so much pain, but it took me a really long time and a lot of figuring things out. I think part of it was I had a hard time shifting my focus of how I studied their shapes. For some reason I had trouble changing my focus from the shapes that I could see easily and the way that I draw people, which is I think about their bone structure and where their muscles will be and how different parts of the body move, and for some reason I didn't switch my thinking over that when it came to horses. So finally I ended up figuring out where muscle groups on horses are and how many joints are in their legs, because their legs are particularly difficult to draw because they are jointed not like human legs, not even really like cat legs, which are the other things that I look at a lot. They have a very unique structure, and so I had a trouble figuring out how to draw that for a long time. But drawing these 5 different horses as unicorns really helped me, I think, explore that a lot and kind of figure out and gave me quite a bit of confidence in that. Then as I was staring at this canvas, trying to work out what else I wanted to do, I thought that, you know, what's more interesting than just green hills? Green hills with flowers on them. And so I really enjoy roses. They are pretty much my favorite flowers, and I like them in a lot of different colors, but I thought it would be simplest and easiest and most fantastical to do a lot of red roses, because they are heavily associated with the Beauty and the Beast story, and so they have that very magical feel. And also somewhat with the Sleeping Beauty story, sometimes it is portrayed that the castle has been taken over by rose bushes, and so I thought it would be cool to have a hedge of rose bushes circling the castle, and then have some roses growing wild at various places along the path and near where the unicorns are. And then I thought there should be some other flowers as well to kind of round it out, so I did some blue, some kind of flowers, I don't know what they are, but they're star-shaped, and had quite a bit of fun with that. And I decided to do some clouds on this one, even though often when I paint skies I'm too scared to do clouds because they can be so beautiful, but they can also look really bad if you do them badly. So I used some masking fluid to make white spaces in the sky, and then made a couple of different types of clouds, mostly by negatively painting where the highlights are. So I would leave the white for the highlights and just put on shadows with gray mixed with blue to give it that very bluish often type of color shadows that clouds have. And so I really liked how that turned out. I didn't have much confidence in it, but it was fun to do and I'm enjoying looking at it. And then I also decided that it would be fun to have more signs of civilization, so I put a village off in the distance. So there's this road leading up to where the viewer is that leads to the castle, but also branches off to this little village. And I thought it would be nice to add a forest near the village that's kind of encroaching on it, and a little bit also next to the castle so that we have more types of land going on. And I tried to be very loose with a lot of my watercolors in this one. I especially was able to manage that with the mountains, the clouds, and the various plants. Not as much with the castle, as I went back to a method I've used before, which is to do a bunch of tiny little splotches to create the brick texture. I did it with a lot less fine detail and specific colors than the last time I drew a brick castle, but it's got a little bit of that flavor to it, and I really like how that turned out as well. I also had quite a bit of fun when I was doing the sketching portion of this and designed the like 3-tiered section where there's an outer wall and 2 inner walls with the keep in the very center, and I really liked making all these different turrets. Turrets are very fun. Now for the dragons, I decided that I wanted to mostly keep the same color scheme that I was working for the rest of the piece. So there was red in the roses and blue in the sky and green with all the plants. So I decided that would be a good way to go for these dragons instead of adding another color like yellow or purple. And I wanted it to be kind of a fun show because this unicorn is kind of turning back and looking over her shoulder to see what's going on. So I thought the dragons should be having a bit of fun, blowing some fire and kind of arcing and flying around each other. A big one and a couple of small ones, and maybe the small ones are just farther away. You can't really tell. But I also did a little bit of texturing on the bigger / closer red dragon and gave him some more splotchiness that looks a bit like scales, and also did more detail with his eye and his horn and his tooth, and just gave more general features to the ones farther back or smaller, and have them just have the veins in their wings and then kind of an outline. And the last 2 things that I added fairly close to the end are the wizard / witch who is approaching the front gate of the castle, and the princess who is in the tower window. I wanted to have a little figure going to the castle because I thought that was fun and gave you a human person to kind of identify with and draw you in and have kind of something going on other than the various magical creatures. So I put a little red dress or robe, I haven't really decided, and a little pointy hat with a little cloak and a little staff, and I also decided to put a tiny cat or dog. I think in perspective to the character it looks a bit more the size of a dog, but I'm gonna call it a big cat because I like cats better. And then the princess in the window is not quite to scale. I would have liked her a little bit smaller, but I can't really paint that small. So the yellow stuff that is falling down in a fairly straight line from her window is supposed to be her super long blonde braid, and then she's got a little blue dress and a little face there in the window, and then I added a bunch of other windows around her, and I had to do the windows a couple of times on the bigger tower because I didn't like how careless I was with it the first time around. So, and black is not an easy watercolor to change once you have put it down, but I did my best. And so I'm really happy with all the different things going on in this piece. Now I'm excited to do a more Irish piece and have it be like lots of fuchsia instead of roses, and have there be no mountains, just lots of green hills and maybe an Irish castle, because those have a very specific look to them, and there is a lot of fun fairy lore having to do with Ireland. I think that would be really fun to depict. Anyway, I hope you enjoy the rest of this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!